And now for a conversation presented by CrowdRiff, please welcome the co-founder and CEO of CrowdRiff, Dan Holowack, in conversation with Skift President Carolyn Kremins.
Hi, Dan. I'm so glad we get to continue this conversation on storytelling. And I know Guy just presented 7 amazing tips, and I think we have the 8th tip right here, right? Just to get everyone on the same page and to kick off, for those of you that don't know, and you should know, CrowdRiff is a marketing platform, and CrowdRiff helps destinations find and leverage visual content. And the reason why this is important, we just heard, we know visual marketing is a key ingredient to engage consumers and in particular travelers. So over the pandemic, Dan, you were very busy. You launched a new tool, and it's called the Story Network. And it basically builds on behavior that we're doing every day, right? We're addicting to scrolling and swiping and watching videos as we follow the people and the brands that we love. So CrowdRiff picked up on this whole stories format, and you realized that this was an incredibly untapped medium for destinations, and you created the CrowdRiff Story Network platform. So just to dive right in, tell us, how does it work, and how can the DMOs take advantage of this format and reach travelers?
Yeah, it's great to be here with you, Carolyn, with everybody here at Skift and all the destinations. Amazing set of talks already today. You know, as you mentioned, over the past few years, every one of these social platforms has been introducing some kind of story format. And our stories, the CrowdRiff stories, they bear a lot of similarities to these other stories, which is important because you want it to be intuitive and familiar to all the consumers, all the travelers. But being CrowdRiff, we extended it, of course, in some really key ways to help the traveler, to dive deeper into a story with just a swipe, the ability to learn more, the ability to see something on a map, the ability to click through to a partner website. The story format's really powerful in and of itself because there's nothing like it that allows a consumer or a traveler to so seamlessly move on to the next step of their travel journey, especially in such a complex travel environment and complex travel funnel. It's also really important because more and more people are using their mobile phones. We all know stories are great on mobile, but these stories also work great on desktop. They work in any browser. And so for the first time now, stories are available to embed on a DMO website. They are easy to discover. They do not disappear after 24 hours. And the DMO has rights to use them through the CrowdRiff platform. They're unshackled from Instagram, WhatsApp, Snapchat, and crucially, Google can index these stories that a DMO is making so that they appear in organic search results based on what travelers are looking for when they're looking for it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, first of all, not disappearing, because if you're a DMO and you're putting this work into putting up, a whole visual story, you don't want it to be gone in 24 hours. But how also are the stories on CrowdRiff different from what we see on the typical social platform like Instagram, and how can the DMOs benefit from looking beyond those platforms?
Well, as you mentioned, first key point is they're not locked into a single ecosystem. So if you make a story on Instagram, it's really tough to use that content outside of Instagram, even more challenging to try and use it on other channels. And so these stories don't have that limitation, and it's possible to use them on other channels. So that's, I think, a key kind of leap to say, okay, we know that these stories are great on social, but now imagine the impact when they can be everywhere, across the web, on every device. The second big piece is discoverability. So these stories are indexed by search engines, and they were designed from the start to be a really natural fit with search engines like Google. So if you make a story on Instagram about something like great hikes, and someone searches for great hikes in your destination on a search engine, they're just not going to find it. But with these stories now, Google is really throwing their weight behind this, so that if we do a search for something like Los Angeles, and I wanted to show you this because few of us, I think, have maybe even realized this is happening. But if you do a search for something like Los Angeles, and we'll see if my screen wakes up here. But if you do a search for something like Los Angeles, you can have, say if you take out your phone and you see that in your mobile browser, you'll see that there's a visual stories piece right on the page. And I'll just try unplugging and plugging back in my phone. But anybody who's listening can give this a shot. It's a nice interactive opportunity. But you'll see this new visual stories box, and maybe due to technical difficulties, this might not work for us here live. And you can tap through and view things like, in this case, it's the best sunsets in Los Angeles. And as you tap through those stories, be able to see what's available at great spots in LA, be able to swipe up and see where those lookout points are, see a map, get directions, find some local tips on those sunsets. And the third really impactful piece is that you can create alignment. And the idea of collaborative storytelling is so key. And it's really was the impetus behind, the Story Network itself, was how can we create alignment across many partners, many regions, many destinations, so that we're all kind of working from the same songbook in a way, so that you can establish some key pillars, some key themes that you want to tell as a region or a state, and have everybody working together and weave those stories together. That's something that's never been possible before. And one of the most adorable examples of that right now is if you visit California's homepage, and we're going to hear more from Lynn Carpenter at Visit California right up next, but on the visitcalifornia.com homepage, they have been focused on pet-friendly travel this month. And before that focus, there were 3 pet-friendly stories across their partners in the network. And now, a week later, there is over 15 stories, not by Visit California, but by all these various partners about pet-friendly beaches and pet-friendly accommodations and pet-friendly patios. So the ability to just do a call for content to partners and then not have to be as hands-on with everything, but let your partners showcase what they know best locally, can be a really powerful way to weave a story together and help a traveler discover the richness of all of the neighborhoods and communities that your destination or region has to offer.
Yeah, I just want to pull out something you said that's really, really important if you're a DMO, is that you have to also satisfy your partners, right? And that's like a big part of your remit, is that you want to get partners involved, you want to support them. So basically what I'm hearing you say is that when you have a theme, like in this case, pet-friendly travel, the partners can all participate and align to that theme and not have to necessarily go through you and put their own stories up. So that's pretty cool. I just wanted to go a little bit further because you're known for CrowdRiff is known for helping destinations tap into user-generated content. So again, like what partners are doing, but you're doing it at scale. So can you take us through some examples of the DMOs that have been really successful, where they've married user-generated content and stories in their marketing campaigns?
Yeah, we've seen so much success in destinations that are focused on their local businesses, small businesses, featuring local heroes, local perspectives. And so that has been really, really impactful and really nice fit for stories overall. It's also a format that is accessible for destinations, whether you're a large destination or a small destination. So one example of this is Ponchatoula, Louisiana. So Ponchatoula, Louisiana is a team of 1, and they're part of Louisiana Main Street. And that's an association that supports the districts and revitalization of those Main Street communities. So they created a story about antiquing on the Ponchatoula Main Street. And so as you tap through this story, you see all the different antique shops, some really great visuals. And with each shop, like I remember one called Ruth's Collectibles, had a particularly enticing image for me. And when you swipe up, again, you have some more information about Ruth's Collectibles, a call to action that you can tap right through to send that traveler over to that partner. and a map of exactly where Ruth's Collectibles is on Main Street. And if that's not your jam, then you can just keep tapping through to a couple other of those great shops that they're featuring. So it's something that can be very quick to produce and yet really engaging and really intuitive for a traveler. But it's also something that the destination itself doesn't even have to be the one that produces it. One of my favorite examples of a destination working with a local person is Visit Estonia. So Visit Estonia worked with a local student in Tartu. And this student is she's super engaging, and she's there on camera in the story, and she takes you through the town square of Tartu and shows you the kissing student statue. And then she takes you on a ride on a medieval boat and explains why these medieval boats are so interesting. And with the audio, you can hear the bell of the boat and the wind and the water. And then there she is in an upside down house, walking around upside down. And we'll be sure to share these links with everybody afterwards. But when you see a story like this, it's just a reminder of how engaging, first of all, how engaging these first person stories are, and how compelling it is to see something through the eyes of a local or through the eyes of one of your partners. And that is the part of the secret sauce of a destination, is those relationships that they have. And so seeing people leverage those to tell compelling stories is just fantastic to see.
Yeah, I love that. And I actually did see that example, and it is worth telling everyone to go and look at it from Estonia. But so then you could be a marketing team of one and still be able to generate thousands of visuals to promote your destination, which is pretty cool. So I just want to bring up one other thing that I know Guy mentioned in the last conversation. Is about data, right? Like customer data is key. If you're the head of a marketing organization, you need to know more about who's coming to the destinations, what do they want, and just learning about them. Does CrowdRiff have a component that is able to deliver on giving these metrics and information to the destinations?
Yeah, that's an exciting point, because we have, given the time that we've spent working with so many destinations, every marketer that I've spoken with is hungry for more data. Now it's more important than ever, as we're all iterating and learning and navigating how traveler demand is returning and tastes and preferences are changing and expectations are changing. So we built the story network with that, the data element woven in deep into the foundation. So that you can gain insights into things that would be really hard to do elsewhere. So to put it one way, we track a lot of information. Some of it's pretty straightforward, like the impressions you're getting on your stories, the completion rate of stories, the swipe up rate that shows somebody's interested in that particular page of your story, the click-through rate. And the results have been pretty amazing. In a lot of these circumstances, especially among younger travelers, we're seeing a 30% click-through rate on this content, which is significantly higher than any other media format I've encountered on a destination website. And so because we know the theme, the persona, the subject, the partner, the tag, on every one of these stories, and that information is aligned, not just for the region or the state, but with all the partners that are participating, you can slice and dice this by interest, by season, by region, and so many more things, and get those leading indicators that are especially important now in advance of bookings and in advance of feedback from your partners to see how tastes and preferences and behaviors are changing. So the data piece is, it's basically built for it with this format. Right.
Yeah. So it's not just good visual content. You are actually delivering the goods in terms of the information. So I think we have time for one last question. And I'm just so curious that, during the pandemic and travel was much more localized, did you help destinations do anything different by using user-generated content and web stories? Like, did things change for you? Yeah,
it was, we saw a combination of things. So we saw destinations that were using a lot of their rights approved UGC from CrowdRiff within their stories. Some destinations were using B-roll or other media that they had, and they were repurposing some really engaging stuff they already had, which is great. And then, of course, a lot of the more relevant real-time content coming in with UGC has allowed them to see what's going on in parks and patios, in cities as things evolve. And so what I've been really excited about is that a lot of the destinations we work with are focused on their communities, their people, and the values that those people have. And that's the piece that is really resonating with travelers as they return. And that's what really reflects, I think, the true heart and the true DNA of a destination, as we've spent the last 18 months for many of us in our destinations learning about what's around us again in our communities. And so I think tapping in to that DNA is what we're seeing most, and that's what we're seeing is actually been the most effective as well.
Yeah, I think that's been something that we've been hearing throughout other conversations, that DMO leaders are really focusing more inward in terms of let the locals tell the story rather than us just market everything to the inbound tourists, which I think is cool. Dan, we've run out of time, but I do want to just add that there's a breakout session that's happening right now, right after we get off the screen. And if you want to come into the breakout session, which I encourage everyone to do, just go into the agenda and press on the link for the breakout session. And you're going to hear from Lynn Carpenter, she's a brilliant marketer. She runs Visit California, and I know you've done great work with her. Anyway, this is exciting stuff that you're doing, Dan. I thank you so much for joining us today. And
there will be examples. Lynn will bring examples.
There are amazing examples. So go over there and you can see them. All right. Thanks, Dan. Take care.